So if everyone please join me and welcome Jackie.
I'm glad I didn't walk on. Okay, note to everybody else, don't walk this way, because that's where the cord is. I'm going to lower this and use it, because I'm not as loud as Jeremy. So, introduction, I wrote myself, so it's pretty great. But you guys can decide if it's worthy. And a little bit about what I put in there, you'll see a little bit in my presentation. When Jeremy called and said, hey, remember Megan set this up, I'm not really sure what she wanted to do, and I said, hey, me either, so let's talk about it. And so I'm not going to take all the credit, but I said, listen, I would love to stand up here and give a sales pitch for the Observer that's a little self-centered, and it's really not the best use of everybody's time. So I'm really, really glad that he got both these wonderful ladies, and you'll learn a lot from them as well, because we're not the only answer, we're not the only option. And locally, I think there's a lot that you can do, and I'm excited to hear from both of them as well. So I hope it'll be beneficial. Okay, so I'm going to answer a couple questions about editorial, even though I don't work on the editorial side, because it's probably the number one question anybody in media gets is, how do I tell you about my business? How do I get something in for free? How do I get you to write a story about me? So I'll kind of address some of that so it can be helpful for y'all. So biggest thing we always say, if we don't know about it, we 100% guarantee it will not make it to the paper, right? So if you tell us about it, there's a way better chance that it can make it in. So if you don't have a connection at the Observer other than myself, or if you know Hallie, if you know Maureen, send it to us. We'll get it to the right people. But of course, you can always email it to editor@palmcoastobserver.com. So that's anything and everything. I don't like to speak for the editorial staff, and so I always say, sometimes I think something is a great story, and they disagree. Sometimes I bring something up, and I'm like, I don't know, it's not that cool, but maybe you want to write about it, and it ends up on the front page. So I always say, send it to us, we'll send it to them, and let them make their call. I forgot to grab my notebook. I don't know this one. Sorry.
Looks gross.
I know, it is gross. That's why I don't know about it. I don't like stuff about spitting, no. So Brian is our executive editor, and he has a thing for his team called the spit test, which I think sounds really gross. But the spit test stands for 4 different things that they look for when they're writing a story. And this is just so you guys know that they have a process and they know what they're always looking for. So the spit test is specificity, priority, irony is something they like, and the last one stands for tell or tease. So those are the 4 things that when they get pitched a story, whether it's from their own writer or from themselves or from the community, they see if it passes the spit test. So if your story does, then they'll take it, they'll run with it, and bravo you got in. So that's just wanted to give you guys that. I think it's kind of interesting, but they talk about it a lot. Community calendar, and Laura has one as well. I'm not sure if she's going to talk about it, but their radio stations also have community calendars. But this is a really free way and an easy way for you to get if you have any kind of community event. This runs the gamut from a charity event to there's like a People Who Love People group that meets at the community center once a month. I mean, it really, the widows group, everything in the world. Anything you want to put on there, you can upload photos. It's really, really simple. But the URL is palmcoastobserver.com/calendar. And then you just hit the submit an event. It's wicked easy. That's a really, really simple way that you can get your events if you have it. And the other 2 places that we talk about businesses in the editorial side typically are going to be in BizBuzz or Your Town. So you'll see actually this back to school drive is, I forgot the name of it, Bank of America, obviously a local business. They did a back to school drive, sent in the photo, said, hey, we did this, we got all these clothes or got all these supplies, sent in the photo, and it made it to our Your Town section. And then, of course, BizBuzz is always going to be a lot more. Actually, the hospital's in here, so hospital hires a new director, local businesses is on this. We get a lot of things like Remax Select sends out awards to their quarterly and Top in Florida and this kind of thing, so they send those over. So those are some of the places that sometimes your news that you send us will land. So anything else, sorry, you got to pay up, you got to open your wallet. So I'll get to that, and that I know a lot more about. So Jeremy mentioned it a little bit, but the biggest thing we always say in marketing in general on our side is I get people that call and say, hey, can you tell me how much this is? I can. Or can you tell me how much it will cost to do this? I can. But without really sitting down, it's sort of like going to the doctor and saying, listen, I don't need to tell you about it, I just need you to write me a script because I'm having headaches and I saw this commercial and I need a script for XYZ, right? Like, you don't know the side effects, you don't know how it's going to affect you, he doesn't know what your problem is. And I've actually seen doctors now, they have like tablets and they actually like click all the boxes of your symptoms and it'll tell you what they should be taking, which is interesting. But it's kind of like that. So we actually usually, before we have a meeting, send out this thing called a diagnosis call. And the diagnosis call asks a lot of those upfront questions that we can get out of the way so we can learn a little bit more about your business so that when we do sit down with you, we have a better idea to start off with on maybe what some of your needs would be, and then we can walk through all of those and see if we might be a fit. Who's your audience? So we always say, I don't really want to sell you an ad, but I would like to see if our audience is right for you. So these are the questions that we ask people. And if you're looking for yourself, if you're looking for marketing, this is what I would always tell you to look at, to see if your audience you want matches the audience that you're looking at purchasing, if that makes sense. So we always say, how would you describe your primary customer? So let me pick on Jeremy. Jeremy may say short, blonde, between the ages of 25 and 35, where, I know, I'm kidding. He may say, you know what, it's primarily women. He may say it's a mix. He may say my audience is truly everybody. But he may actually know the answer too, and he may say, with mine, because we're specifically a credit union, and we do members, we know that our audience is more specifically women, and that may or may not be true. But those are the questions we like to ask people so we can dig in and see if we're actually the right for them. Do your customers typically prefer quality over price, price over quality, or value both the same? Really important thing for you to know when you're looking. This is my favorite, and I have notes on this, and I'm gonna have a fun little test with you guys. So if you drew a circle around your business, what is the radius from which your customers come? Sometimes people don't know this, which is lovely that we have the marketing intel that I was telling you about. So I have some written down. So looking for participation. So for a hair salon, what would you guess is the customer mile radius that they draw from?
5 miles.
Guys said 5, girls? 25. So the average is 14. And it said women are willing to drive 10 minutes more than men, which makes sense, right? Like women are really particular about who cuts their hair, okay? I drive actually probably about 14 miles. I drive to Ormond, so totally makes sense. Banks, Jeremy, any guesses?
7 miles.
It's 3. I didn't look up credit union specifically, but banks is 3. But think about how many banks are in Palm Coast for one, right? How many in a 3-mile radius? Do you know the answer? A lot, right? Like every half a mile, right? Every quarter of a mile there's a bank. So that makes a lot of sense as to why there are so many people want something a little bit closer to them, which is really interesting to me. Vehicle shopping. Cars, trucks, automobiles, anything.
25 miles.
25? 50? Kind of in the middle. So 30 was the answer. So you guys are really close. You're right. People are willing to drive. I think especially for pre-owned vehicles, right? You find the right thing. You're looking for a specific car in a specific color and you see it online. You're willing to drive there and get it if it's a better price. So when we look at these things with clients, we like to look at, does it make sense for you to just be in Palm Coast? Do you need to be in Ormond? Do you need to be in Port Orange? Or do you not need to be in Port Orange? Because if you're a bank and you've got one location and you're in the middle of Palm Coast, why would I sell you all the way outside of our market? So always, always, always when you're looking, I don't care if you're buying Facebook advertising. When on Facebook, you can pick the mile radius, right? Like I don't know a ton about it, but you can pick the mile radius you want that ad to go to. So be smart, know what your radius is for your customers, and then pick that option. Opportunities for your business, challenges for your business. We always like to tackle those. If there's something that's an opportunity, if an opportunity for you is young families, so I just talked with Andrew last week. So if your opportunity is young families, they're doing a really smart thing, tagging into football, right? High school football. So they saw an opportunity to target specifically young families, and so they're tagging onto FBC and Matanzas football and doing a campaign where they're getting in front of those people, and that's very, very, very smart. So know your opportunities. And then also average sale per customer visit and transaction is something we always look at. So why don't a lot of coffee shops advertise with the Observer? How many cups of coffee does the beanery that no longer exists, so we'll use them, have to sell to pay for one ad that costs $100 with the Observer? A lot of cups of coffee. How many policies does Andrew need to sell to pay for a $100 advertisement? So that's something we always weigh out, and sometimes we're not the best answer for somebody. So I told you this, but don't buy advertising, buy an audience. Know who your audience is. Make sure you're asking yourself those questions. Write it down. And then when you meet with somebody from any form of media or you're looking at Facebook, look for those targets. Realize if it is women, I think on Facebook you can target women. So you can do this in almost anything. I'm sure Laura could sit here and tell you, this is the right station for you. It doesn't make sense for you to be on Cool. It really makes sense for you to be on Kicks. And that's the kind of thing that I want you guys to be smart. When you're looking at marketing, you have to ask those questions and buy the audience that you need for your business. So that's the biggest one. And then I always say this, I said it in the beginning, mix it up. You have to. The best buy is a mixed buy. I tell people all the time to look into radio when they're new. I say, listen, you want local? You've got us and you've got the radio. You have to meet with them. You got to look at it. If I told you just to buy the Observer, that would not be the best answer. I wrote down here example of one we did wrong, right? So we'll admit mistakes. So we got called by Aaron's when they came in. So Aaron's rents furniture, right? Primarily, maybe you're new to town, maybe you're renting, maybe you're not sure, maybe you're kind of transient, maybe you're not connected yet, maybe you don't have the income yet, you're not sure, and so you're renting your furniture until you own it, right? Rent to own. Is that right? That's how they do. Okay. Nobody's nodding. I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. No. So Aaron's called us. We went in, and we did not ask questions. And I was not on this meeting, so we'll just call John Walsh out. He's not here. So John went right into the pitch, right? So, and Laura, you've probably done this. It's not good, but it happens sometimes. Went right into the pitch, just vomited all over about how the Observer specifically targets higher average household income homes. And Aaron said, ooh, guess we're not a good fit. And we were like, ooh, backpedal. Ooh. So, but that's okay, right? So maybe we're not a good fit for Aaron's. And I just want you to understand that we always say, let's talk, let's consult, let's see if we're a good fit. And we may not be. We're okay hearing no, because sometimes we're not. So I just think that that's really important for people to know. I think it's important for you to know and just ask a lot of questions. I'll have people say, somebody came in with this magazine. It's a new thing, and I'll say, oh, great, like how do they distribute it? Where does it go? Who's their target audience? And they go, I don't know, but like a half-page ad was $150. That sounds great, but where is it going? And if you can't answer those questions, please don't buy it. Ask the right questions so that you know you're buying the right thing. So that's my piece. I'll get Laura set up.
All right, round of applause for Jaclyn. Okay, we will have questions.